What's up, everyone? I'm Jessie Knock, joined by Garrett Downing and Ryan Mink. We have 5 days of training camp practice under our belts, as Harbaugh called it, the dog days. I like it. I gotta ask, what have you seen from Lamar these first 5 days?
I think you got to be happy with what you've seen from Lamar Jackson. He certainly was the biggest storyline coming into this year's training camp, and I think he's thrown the ball really well. There's no question that he's a much more polished passer than he was at this point last season. Even, I think, a more polished passer than he was when last season ended. I think his best throws, and he's throwing really well in this area, middle of the field. It seems like he's got a great rapport with some of those guys in the middle of the field. Also, he's had some deep shots that he's connected with some of these young receivers with down the field, those sideline throws that I feel like has been a big step in his development. So Lamar is the big topic around the Ravens, both locally and nationally. And from the first week of training camp, I feel like you got to feel pretty good about where he is.
Yeah, totally agree. And then it's, of course, him building chemistry with the guys catching those passes, right? Mark Andrews, to me, has stood out. I mean, this guy, I could see him making a huge leap, being a top-end fantasy tight end this year.
Is that a little plug?
That's a little plug for him. You might want to take him early. I mean, Mark Andrews is just making plays all over the field, beating defensive backs one-on-one, making plays over the middle, making plays deep. I mean, this guy just has a real knack for getting open, and the chemistry that he's developing with Lamar, I think, is really key here. Wouldn't surprise me if it's like a Joe Flacco, Dennis Pitta kind of connection.
Wow.
So that is really encouraging to see. And there's some wide receivers that are standing out too. I think Willie Snead's had a couple of really good practices back-to-back. But the wide receiver to me is Jaleel Scott, who's taken the biggest leap. I mean, from year one to year two, Jaleel didn't even play his rookie season. Year two, he's high point balls just plucking it over defenders' heads. I mean, Jaleel looks really good out there.
What have you seen from Miles Boykin? He had a big day, stadium practice on Saturday.
Yep. You left him out of your receivers that look good.
He's really good too.
I thought you were going to say it.
Yeah, exactly. There's been a lot of guys. I think Miles Boykin has been one of the early surprises of training camp so far. He seems to be a pretty polished product, and the thought on him coming in was that he was a little bit more raw. He doesn't look all that raw. I mean, he looks like a pretty polished receiver right now. Willie Snead said that he reminds him of Michael Thomas from their time together in New Orleans, which is pretty high praise when you consider that Michael Thomas might be the best receiver.
Extremely high praise.
Yeah, he might be the best receiver in the NFL. So Boykin and Lamar seem to have a pretty good connection. When I talk about those passes down the sidelines, that's where Lamar has connected with Boykin. He had another one on Monday, a nice pass where Boykin came back and caught the ball against Marlon Humphrey. So I feel like Boykin is somebody who looks like he's ready to contribute right away. Now the key here, we talk about practice and that's all we have right now. A key for a young player like Boykin is to now translate that into games and to show us that he can do it in a game atmosphere.
But to do it against the Ravens corners, against Marlon Humphrey, Jimmy Smith at the stadium practice to get deep. I mean, those are two really, really good corners.
You know, I like too that he had his best practice in the stadium environment. So like the intensity ramps up a little bit and he rose to the occasion.
What did you think about that secondary? They have been...
Yeah, we're not dogging on Jimmy Smith and Marlon Humphrey. Exactly, yeah. I mean, the secondary looks really good. I mean, they are as billed. They're extremely deep, extremely talented. Marlon Humphrey had an interception in Monday's practice. He picked off Lamar. It was the first interception that Lamar threw since the first day. So they've been few and far between, but Marlon got one of them. So I think Marlon looks like a player that's ready to take another step. He took a big step from year one to year two last year. Now it looks like it's going to be up to a Pro Bowl level in year three. That's my expectation for Marlon Humphrey in year three.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. The players are off today, but keep it right here all week long for more training camp coverage.